You're exactly right, Congressman. So smaller ferries, both in our county system as well as when we're taking into account the growth of a high-speed passenger ferry fleet, as population growth across Western Washington is so astronomical. There's more and more look at bringing that mosquito fleet back. There are lots of mechanisms in place within the state, and we're looking for others as well. We have our Clean Energy Fund. We also have the opportunity to bring in some private investment, right? As we start talking about those opportunities for operational savings, it starts to make sense to bring some private investment into some of those projects. Of course, each of those ferries look for both that kind of hybrid stack of capital. We're looking at opportunities for various different federal funds, state funds, and private dollars. All that's necessary. What we're fortunate to do is now have a mechanism in place to help support those type of projects, go out and seek and then receive those various different types of funding into a particular project. And the cluster organization is there to help support that.
Thanks. Dr. Kimberg, our U.S. Navy has, they have a lot of ships, but they have a few ships that are hybrid. And the idea is that that when they're underway, they can switch to an electric drive. So because they're just going in a straight line, they don't really need to be doing anything much else. But when they're getting out of port and into port, they need to have a little more maneuverability, a little more control, and so on. So I'm wondering if, looking at the larger ocean-going vessels, if that's an option, or are we looking at one propulsion system, one kind of propulsion system, or a hybrid system for the 2030 or even the 2050 timeframe?
I'm not really familiar with what the U.S. Navy might define as a hybrid.
Sure. All right, well, answer my question then. What are you looking at?
What are we looking at? We're certainly looking at batteries. We're looking at new fuels, but we've also added waste heat recovery. We've changed out propellers to be much more energy efficient. We've changed out bulbous bows. We actually give the vessels a nose job. You cut off that bulbous bow and weld on a new one so that it's more energy efficient at today's speeds. And then, of course, you've all heard of slow steaming. And then we've got new, larger, more energy efficient vessels per container. So those are all different approaches that we've taken to try to push this forward and achieve that 42% reduction that we've achieved so far. Now we're going into new technologies, what we call the connected vessel strategy, so that Big Brother actually is watching all of those ships and monitoring all of the different engineering sensors and making sure that we are squeezing that last bit of energy out of what's on the vessel.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Weber.
Thank you, Chairman.